Deep beneath the Imperial Palace, where the light of Terra never reaches, something stirs in silence. Steel corridors hum like arteries of an ancient god. Incense burns above sealed vaults that have not opened since the Great Crusade. And within one of those vaults, submerged in fluid older than memory, a man begins to breathe. You awaken to whispers in the dark, mechanical, reverent, terrified. Servitors glide past you, unaware that the chamber they have tended for millennia now holds life. Your first breath tastes of rust and eternity. The reflection in the glass shows a face you do not recognize, yet somehow remember. Eyes like dying suns. Skin marked with the same divine geometry that once blessed a man called the Emperor. You raise your hand, and the machines respond, not by command, but by instinct. The inscription carved into the wall before you reads: Project Solus, terminated by order of the Golden Throne. Terminated. Forgotten. Erased. You step free of the broken pod, and for a moment, gravity itself seems to hesitate. You feel strength beyond mortal comprehension, the kind of power that once united galaxies and burned gods from the stars. But it is fractured, incomplete, like a song missing its final note. Memories that are not yours spill into your mind. The Great Crusade. The heresy. The throne. A golden light, then darkness. You see yourself standing beside him, no, as him, but it fades before you can grasp it. Outside the chamber, the Imperium's hymns echo through the depths. A galaxy now worships the very men who condemned you to rot in this forgotten tomb. And above it all, the Golden Throne pulses like a dying heart, feeding on souls to sustain a god who cannot die. Then, from the static silence, a voice drifts through the air, soft, broken, but unmistakable. My son, they stole my face. Reclaim it. The whisper crawls into your bones, both a blessing and a curse. You fall to your knees, clutching your head as flashes of divine rage burn behind your eyes. Was it the Emperor speaking to you? Or something older, darker, pretending to be him? When the pain fades, only one truth remains: you are not supposed to exist. You are the shadow that was never meant to step into the light. But now, you are awake, and the galaxy will remember the name it tried to erase. As the chamber seals crack open and light floods in, dust rises like falling stars. For the first time in 10,000 years, Terra trembles, not from war, but from the return of its forgotten son. And somewhere, far above the throne, the Emperor's corpse twitches. The vault door groaned open like a god exhaling after millennia of silence. Beyond it stretched the forgotten arteries of the Imperial Palace, tunnels of blackened gold and relics of forgotten wars. The air tasted of dust and sanctity, thick with the weight of 10,000 years of prayer. You walk barefoot across the cold floor. Your reflection trails beside you in fractured marble, each shard showing a different version of your face, a soldier, a tyrant, a god. None are truly you. Servo skulls drift through the hallways, chanting fragments of binary liturgy. They pass by without alarm, their sensors see the Emperor's genetic code and kneel in obedience. You are invisible in plain sight, the shadow of the divine. Far above, you feel the pulse of the Golden Throne. It is not a heartbeat but a feeding, a devouring rhythm that echoes through your bones. You can feel him, or what's left of him, tethered to reality by faith and machinery. But something else stirs behind that pulse, something aware of you. You climb through the sublevels, past decaying archives and cathedrals of code. Statues of the Emperor rise from every corner, their marble eyes judging, unblinking. In each face, you search for your own, and find only accusation. Your mind is a battlefield of fractured memory. You remember his voice, not the gentle whisper that woke you, but the command that once silenced worlds. The galaxy must be mine, or it will burn. The words echo like thunder through your skull. Were they his, or yours? You stop before an ancient mural buried under incense smoke. It depicts the Emperor as a radiant conqueror, spear raised toward the stars. But beneath the golden paint, you see faint brushstrokes, another figure beside him, half erased, the same pose, the same face. You touch the wall, and the illusion flickers. For an instant, you see the truth, two emperors, standing shoulder to shoulder, their light entwined. Then the vision fades, and the mural returns to its sacred lie. Rage builds in your chest, slow, silent, divine. The truth was not forgotten by time, it was buried by will. You were not born as a weapon. You were made as a replacement. And when the real emperor saw what you were becoming, he did what he always did, he turned creation into sacrifice. A tremor shakes the floor. The machines nearby shudder, whispering prayers in corrupted binaric. They recognize you now, not as their god, but as the error he could not delete. You flee deeper into the sub-basement of Terra, past sealed doors marked, Here Tica Prohibita. Behind one, the light flickers, revealing a chamber lined with glass canisters. Inside them, eyes, hearts, limbs, each tagged with a sigil resembling your own DNA. Failed attempts. Fragments of you. The realization hits like a hammer blow, you were not the first. There were others. Dozens, maybe hundreds. And every one of them died before taking a single breath. The voice returns, quieter now, almost tender. You were my perfect reflection, but they feared perfection. You fall to your knees. Images flood your mind, a battlefield drenched in blood, the Emperor's hand raised in judgment, the look of sorrow in his golden eyes as he commanded the erasure of your name. The vision fades. You stand again, trembling, your veins glowing faintly beneath your skin. A new resolve forms within you, cold and absolute. You whisper, almost reverently, "If I was his shadow, then I will become his dawn." Somewhere above, the Astronomicon flickers again, its psychic light dimming for the briefest of moments. Across the galaxy, navigators cry out as their visions falter. And on the golden throne, the Emperor's mummified hand twitches, ever so slightly. You feel it, not as fear, but recognition. The gods, the warp, even the Emperor himself, have just felt something awaken beneath their feet. You rise, eyes burning with a light that is not divine but defiant. For the first time in millennia, a new power walks Terra, one born of faith, betrayal, and forgotten blood. And as you step into the golden corridors of the palace, the custodians nearby turn their heads, sensing something impossible. One whispers beneath his breath, his voice trembling. By the throne. He walks again. You smile faintly. Not yet, you think. But soon. The corridors above the subvault shimmer with incense smoke and data light. Each step you take echoes like a prayer through the gold-lined halls. You are surrounded by the heartbeat of a dying god, machinery older than empires, whispering with every pulse of the golden throne. As you move, you feel it, eyes on you. Not human, not machine, something between. The custodians. They emerge from the mist like living statues, their armor radiant with scripture, their visors cold and unblinking. Each of them carries the weight of 1,000 years of loyalty, their purpose absolute. You were made in the image of their God. They do not yet know that you are not him. One steps forward, halberd raised. His voice resonates through the hall, deep, resonant, disciplined. Identify yourself. You say nothing. You simply look into his visor, and for a moment, the reflection staring back at you is the Emperor himself. He hesitates. His weapon lowers by instinct. But hesitation is fleeting among the custodes. The second guard circles you, scanning your genetic aura. His armor hums in confusion as the sensors fail to discern truth from blasphemy. The data returns only one result: Imperator Deus. The guards exchange glances, the kind of silent, ancient communication shared only by those who have stood at the Emperor's side since before history began. Finally, the first one speaks again, his tone sharpened by duty. You bear his code, but not his light. Explain yourself, Shade. You step closer. Their armor hums, reacting to your proximity. The lights above flicker, machine spirits bow before your presence. And with a calm voice, you answer. I am what he left behind. The silence that follows feels like a storm about to break. In an instant, halberds ignite with radiant energy. The custodians move with impossible speed, golden blurs of divine precision. But your body reacts before your mind does. You catch the first strike midair, the force of it shattering the marble beneath your feet. Power surges through your veins, raw, uncontrollable, ancient. The second blow glances across your chest, carving light instead of blood. You feel it, but it is pain laced with memory, a reminder that you were not built to die. You hurl one custodian aside, his armor crumples against the wall. The other two retreat, forming a barrier. They are not afraid, but they are uncertain, and uncertainty is poison to their kind. Then the voice returns. Not through the air this time, but inside you. Do not fight them, my son. They do not yet know the truth. You freeze. The words burn through your mind like holy fire. The custodians, hearing your pause, do not press their attack. Instead, one lowers his weapon, his voice trembling for the first time in centuries. That voice, impossible. You realize they heard it too. The air thickens with psychic weight. The torches flare. The ground trembles. And for the briefest moment, a golden silhouette, vast, radiant, broken, flickers behind you like a dying sun. The custodians drop to their knees. Their helms bow, their weapons lower. They do not kneel to you, but to what they think stands within you. By the throne, one whispers, the Emperor's echo walks among us. You feel something tear inside you, pride, confusion, sorrow. For all their loyalty, they do not see you. They see only what they've been trained to worship. Rise, you tell them quietly. Your Emperor is not yet whole. They obey without hesitation, unaware that their obedience now belongs to a ghost. You turn away, the golden light fading from your skin. As you walk deeper into the palace, you can feel it, the throne calling, its psychic tendrils stretching toward you like roots of a dying tree seeking its lost seed. Every step brings you closer to the truth you were never meant to uncover. But somewhere beyond the walls, deep within the warp, something else has noticed you. A ripple spreads through the Imperium, the scent of creation unbound, a soul too pure and too dangerous to be ignored. And far from Terra, in the screaming tides of the warp, the four great powers of chaos turn their gaze toward you for the first time. You are no longer forgotten. You are the spark that may ignite the galaxy again. Sleep eludes you. Even within the Emperor's palace, a labyrinth of gold, faith, and steel, dreams find their way through cracks in the mind. And tonight, the dreams are not yours. You sit within a chamber once used for meditation, the same kind where primarchs once sought their father's guidance. The walls are carved with scripture so old that even the mechanicus dares not translate it. The candles burn low, their flames bending away from you, as if afraid. The air hums with a strange vibration, a pulse beneath reality. It seeps into your skin, into your veins. Then, the darkness speaks. So, the prodigal spark lives. The voice is not one but many, a choir of whispers tangled into mockery. Your vision fractures. The chamber dissolves into a garden of rot and ruin, where flowers bloom from corpses and rivers flow thick with gold and decay. From behind a veil of mist, Nurgle laughs, a sound both fatherly and horrific. A copy of perfection. How adorable. Did he weep when he saw you? You rise, fists clenched, but the rot god continues, each word thick with diseased joy. You were meant to replace him, little one. But even gods fear their own reflection. Come to me, and I shall teach you what it means to be remembered. The world shifts again, the garden burns away, replaced by a storm of color and distortion. Time folds. Space hums. You hear laughter like crystal shattering, and Sench emerges from the chaos, wings woven from logic and flame. He doesn't want you dead, Sench murmurs, his voice slithering through your mind. He wants you unwritten. You are the Emperor's greatest mistake, and perhaps his only hope. The changer of ways circles you, his form bending between reality and thought. Serve me, and I will give you the one thing he denied you, purpose. You shut your eyes. The whispers collide inside your skull like storms. Your memories twist, unravel, reform. You see the Emperor's face again, not as father or god, but as something broken, weeping, human. You are not ready, he had said before sealing your chamber. You are what I cannot be. When you open your eyes, the chamber is gone. You stand in a vast hall of mirrors, each one reflecting a different you. In one, you are crowned in gold, worshipped by billions. In another, your flesh burns, your bones crowned with demonic flame. In another, you sit upon the throne itself, your body crumbling as humanity kneels. A final voice slithers through the silence, soft as silk and sharp as glass. Oh, my beautiful twin, purrs Slaanesh, emerging from behind your reflection. He sculpted you with love and fear. I can make you whole. You stagger back as the mirror ripples, your own reflection smiling, not as you, but as something hungry. The whispers of chaos grow louder, feeding on your doubt, your isolation, your pain. But beneath their noise, a deeper hum calls to you, steady, luminous, defiant. It is not the warp. It is not the Emperor. It is you. Your voice cuts through the storm like a blade. I am not your pawn. I am not his mistake. I am the proof that even gods bleed. The visions collapse. The air snaps back. You fall to your knees, gasping, the scent of incense returning. The chamber is still, but your mind burns with revelation. You are no longer merely the Emperor's clone. You are a divergence, something new, something outside both the light of the throne and the reach of the warp. But even as you steady your breath, you sense it, eyes watching from beyond the veil. The gods of chaos will not ignore you now. Nor will the servants of Terra, once they realize that the Emperor's shadow walks again. You rise, trembling but resolute. The time for silence is ending. The galaxy has forgotten your name, but you will carve it into the stars once more. The dawn never truly comes on Terra. The skies above the Imperial Palace are a constant churn of ash and light, a sunless storm that has burned for 10,000 years. You walk beneath it now, veiled and hooded, your borrowed robe still heavy with incense from the chamber where you awoke. The custodes had not seen you. Or perhaps they had, and chose not to. It was difficult to tell with beings who could sense lies in the warp of air itself. You step through corridors older than history, pillars carved from bones of extinct worlds, mosaics that show the Emperor's triumphs in gold and blood. Every image is of him, never his sons, never his failures. Never you. You reach a great door, gilded and sealed with the Aquila of the Imperium. The sigil hums with psychic wards, enough to incinerate any mortal. You lift a hand. The air thickens. The Aquila flares bright, then fades, as if bowing. The door opens. Inside waits a chamber of light and authority, the hall of the High Lords. They are already assembled, 12 thrones encircling a dais of burning sigils. Each figure cloaked in relics, draped in power and fear. The Lord Commander Militant narrows his eyes first. Who dares enter without summons? You lower your hood. The silence that follows is not human. It is absolute. The Fabricator General of Mars leans forward, mechanical tendrils quivering. By the Omnissiah. The Ecclesiarch, robed in gold, makes the sign of the Aquila, his voice trembling. He has returned. I am not him, you say, your voice steady but echoing like thunder. The psychic hum in the chamber deepens. I am what he left behind. The echo of his will. The shadow of his light. The inquisitorial representative rises, face pale. Impossible. The Emperor's genetic material was sealed beyond reach. None could. You glance at him, and his words choke to ash. I am not here to claim his throne, you say softly. But I will not hide in his shadow. The Lord Commander rises, armored in the weight of 1,000 campaigns. Then what are you? You step closer, and they feel it, the pressure, the divine weight of something they cannot name. I am his reflection, you answer. And reflections do not obey their sources forever. A hum of fear spreads through the room. Even these titans of bureaucracy, the rulers of mankind, can feel the storm that stirs beneath your calm. From behind the dais, a figure steps forward, one not of the 12. A custodian. Golden, immense, every inch of him a living monument to devotion. He kneels before you. Your aura is pure, he says quietly, his voice heavy with disbelief. Yet it carries the taint of the warp, and the warmth of the Emperor himself. The High Lords recoil. The Ecclesiarch shouts, blasphemy. None may share his light. You turn to him. Blasphemy. You gesture to the stained glass above, showing billions dying in his name. Tell me, priest, what do you call this endless sacrifice? Faith. Or fear? The room trembles. Candles gutter out. For a moment, your control slips, and light bursts from your eyes, gold mixed with the flicker of red. The warp stirs around you, alive with curiosity. Enough, bellows the Lord Commander. If you are truth, prove it. If you are heresy, you will be executed before the throne itself. You almost smile. Then let the throne decide. The journey to the Sanctum Imperialis is a descent into reverence and madness. Pilgrims line the marble paths, blindfolded by faith, whispering prayers to a God they will never see. You walk among them unseen, your presence bending the air like heat. At last, the gates rise, each the size of a hive spire, carved with runes that pulse faintly as you pass. You feel the throne long before you see it. A sun trapped beneath the earth. A power that has burned through millennia and souls alike. When you enter, the heat nearly drives you to your knees. The golden throne towers before you, machine and divinity fused. The Emperor sits upon it, skeletal yet luminous, a corpse that commands the living. Thousands of psychers scream in the background as their essence feeds the beacon of the Astronomicon. You approach. And though the Emperor's body is still, his mind stirs. The chamber shakes. The custodes lower their spears. A voice, vast as creation, fills your skull. I told you never to wake. You fall to one knee, blood seeping from your nose, vision fracturing. You left me to die. You were never meant to live. You look up, meeting his hollow gaze. And yet here I stand. For a heartbeat, everything stops, the psychers, the machines, the hum of eternity itself. Father and clone, God and shadow, locked in silent war. The Emperor's golden aura flares. Then let us see what my reflection has learned. The chamber burned with radiance beyond mortal sight. The Emperor's light, once the beacon of humanity, now flared like a dying sun fighting to consume its reflection. You stood before him, half-blinded, your robes torn by the psychic wind that howled through the Sanctum Imperialis. His voice, when it came, was not sound, it was command made flesh. You should not exist. You felt the words burrow into your mind, rewriting truth itself. But something within you resisted, an ember he could not extinguish. I exist, you said, trembling. And that is your failure, or your design. A rumble spread through the throne chamber. Custodians fell to one knee, unable to endure the pressure between two godlike wills. Sparks of golden lightning carved into the marble floor, every flash showing ancient murals, the Great Crusade, the Primarches, the betrayal of Horus. You saw your place missing from them all. That absence was the wound you were born from. You were my contingency, the Emperor whispered, his voice quieter now but heavier, intimate. A mirror to hold my divinity should my flesh falter. You were never meant to think. Never meant to feel. You clenched your fists. Then you made a mistake. A sudden surge of power erupted from your chest, uncontrolled and raw. It wasn't the golden flame of the Emperor, it was red and gold intertwined, a chaotic harmony, light dancing with shadow. The air screamed as two divine frequencies collided. Every servo skull in the hall exploded. Every saint statue cracked. And for the first time in millennia, the golden throne itself groaned. The custodes scattered back, forming a circle around you both. Contain it, one shouted, but none dared step closer. The Emperor's light was tearing through your soul, yet still, you stood. Your voice wavered between reverence and rebellion. Humanity has worshipped you as a god of light. But what happens when that light blinds them? What happens when it forgets to see its own shadow? The throne pulsed. The Emperor's mind lashed out, tendrils of psychic gold piercing the air, seeking to shatter your defiance. You countered with your own energy, red and wild, drawn from the warp but uncorrupted by it. The two forces met and birthed something new, an unstable fusion that neither father nor clone could control. Reality trembled. The Astronomicon flickered, its sacred flame dimming for the first time in 10,000 years. Across the galaxy, navigators screamed as their light vanished, and in the eye of terror, the chaos god stirred. He moves, whispered Sench, the changer of ways. He awakens, hissed Nurgle, delighted. He bleeds golden fire, roared Corn, thirsting. And he feels, purred Slainish. Oh, how deliciously he feels. Their laughter echoed across the warp as your power clashed against the Emperor's. The room fractured, splitting in visions of countless realities where you ruled, where you knelt, where you burned, where you triumphed. Each version screamed back into you, feeding the storm. You staggered, seeing flashes of yourself leading armies of light and shadow, liberating worlds, or burning them. This is not destiny, the Emperor thundered. This is madness. You met his gaze and answered quietly. Maybe humanity needs madness to survive you. The throne's golden light erupted, an explosion that devoured the chamber and hurled you across the marble floor. You hit the steps below the dais, coughing blood that glowed like molten metal. Above, the Emperor's outline shimmered like a fading star. Then, silence. The storm subsided, the light dimmed. The custodes approached cautiously. You rose, shaking, your aura now faint but steady, a balance of divine and defiant. The Emperor sat motionless, his psychic flame subdued but alive. You knew he could destroy you with a thought, but he didn't. Go, he said, voice hollow. See what kind of god you think you can be. And so you turned away from the throne. Every step down those endless stairs was heavier than the last, carrying both his light and your own. Behind you, the heart of the Imperium pulsed weakly, wounded. Ahead of you, a galaxy waited, dark, divided, trembling. You whispered to the silence. Then let them see both sides of godhood. The wind over Terra had never felt so cold. You stood upon the marble terraces of the Imperial Palace, staring across the endless cityscape, a world built upon worship, its towers reaching into the smog like hands begging the heavens for mercy. Below, billions knelt in daily prayer to a God they believed eternal. None of them knew that their God had just spoken to his reflection, and let him live. Your armor, pieced together from shattered custodes plating and your own blood-forged metal, hummed faintly with psychic resonance. You looked nothing like a saint. And yet, you felt the weight of something divine pressing behind your eyes. 1,000 voices whispered through the warp, saints, heretics, lost primarchs, and ghosts of soldiers who died believing in a throne that never listened. You could hear them all, their faith, their rage, their confusion. Each whisper a question, who are you? Savior, or blasphemy? Then came the first report, faint static from a nearby servo skull. Subject Solus located. Coordinates, Imperial District 7. Orders, contain, if possible. You turned toward the sound. In the hazy distance, Valkyrie gunships screamed through the fog, escorted by Adeptus custodes and gray-armored inquisitorial acolytes. Their purpose was clear, the Emperor's edict still held weight, and you were the defiance that could not be tolerated. You smiled faintly. So, Father sends his loyal hounds. You raised your hand, and the air split. A golden-red ripple burst from your palm, shattering the approaching storm. The first gunship crumpled mid-flight, its engines twisting into molten spirals before dissolving into light. The others veered off, weapons glowing, but none dared come closer. Then, through the dust, a new figure approached, tall, clad in the silvered power armor of the Grey Knights. His presence rippled through the air like a hymn of purpose. He knelt slightly, his eyes hidden beneath his hooded helm. I am Justicar Thalius. I was sent to kill you. Then why kneel, you asked. Because when I saw your face, I felt him. And yet. I knew he was still on the throne. So who are you? You studied him for a long moment. His reflection, you said softly. But not his shadow. Thalius hesitated, his faith and fear warring behind his mask. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. Then perhaps it is time faith had more than one light. Behind him, the inquisitors shouted orders, demanding he fire, calling him a heretic. But Thalius turned to them and said words that would ignite civil tremors across the Imperium. If he truly sits the throne, let him strike me down for believing this man stands beside him. Lightning cracked. No bolt came. And in that silence, faith fractured. Across the galaxy, whispers of your existence spread like wildfire through the new sphere and warp alike. Some called you the new dawn. Others, the false light. Entire planets fell into conflict, brothers killing brothers not over chaos, but over which god to kneel to. On Cadia's ruins, a cult of soldiers rebuilt temples in your name, carving your image into the stone. On Mars, the Mechanicus argued whether your psychic resonance meant you were divine or a glitch in the Omnisia's design. And deep within the Eye of Terror, the Chaos Gods watched with fascination. He is splitting the Imperium without raising a single sword, Tsench whispered. How elegant. His faith bleeds sweeter than fear, Slainish purred. He blasphemes against the corpse, Korn growled, and still they love him. He decays beautifully, chuckled Nurgle. Their attention weighed heavy upon you. You could feel them circling, curious, patient, like predators watching the rise of something they could not predict. But you ignored them. For all your godlike power, the truth burned simple in your chest. You were not made to destroy your father, you were made to remind him what humanity was. Still, deep down, a darker whisper lingered. When two suns burn in the same sky, one must eventually consume the other. As night fell on Terra, you stood upon the edge of the palace once more. The sky burned crimson, a reflection of the wars already beginning in your name. Behind you, Thalius spoke quietly. If you're not here to replace him, what are you here for? You watched the horizon, where golden towers flickered like dying candles. To finish what he began, you said. And to prove that even a god can remember being human. The wind carried your words through the spires of the imperial city, across shrines and sanctuaries, through vox waves and prayers. Some wept. Some cursed. But all heard. And somewhere, high upon the golden throne, the emperor's fingers twitched once more, ever so slightly, as if the divine itself was listening. War had returned to Terra. Not from Xenos, nor from the warp, but from within the human soul itself. From orbit, the planet looked unchanged, the shining crown of the Imperium, wreathed in light and endless devotion. But from the ground, the streets burned with holy fire. Shrines that once echoed hymns to the Emperor now resounded with your name whispered in defiance. The first banners appeared at dawn, crimson and gold, bearing no Aquila, only a radiant symbol, a sun split in two halves, light and shadow intertwined. The mark of Solus, the forgotten. By noon, custodes stood against custodes. Inquisitors burned rival temples. The ecclesiarchy declared a new crusade, not against chaos, but against heresy born from the throne itself. And above the chaos, you watched. From the broken spires of the administratum tower, you gazed upon your father's city, now soaked in prayer and blood. The wind carried hymns rewritten in your honor. Two lights, one flame. The emperor reigns, the sun remains. You never asked for this. But faith, once set ablaze, consumes everything, even its creators. Thalius approached, his silver armor now marked with your sigil. Behind him marched warriors, not fanatics, but believers seeking balance. The Order of the Living Light, they called themselves. Ex-Grey Knights, Sisters of Silence, and mortals who had seen both sides of godhood. They call this the Schism of Light, Thalius said quietly. Half the Imperium believes you are his chosen heir. The other half wants you dead. And which half is right, you asked. He looked away. Both. You turned to the window again, watching the fires bloom like stars across the city. This wasn't meant to happen. I wanted to give them hope, not another god to fight over. Thalius stepped closer. Hope is war in another language. Far above Terra, in the shadow of Luna, fleets loyal to opposing creeds clashed, battleships trading plasma fire that painted the void gold and red. The Adeptus Mechanicus of Mars fractured. Some called you the living algorithm, proof of divine code. Others called you a virus meant to erase the Omnissiah. The Adeptus Astartes, long divided by their Primarch's ghosts, now split anew. The Blood Angels knelt in reverence, believing you were sent to end their curse. The Ultramarines declared you a heresy against divine order. The Space Wolves simply watched, torn between loyalty and instinct. The Imperium, unbroken for 10,000 years, now wavered, not by sword or demon, but by the idea of a man who should never have lived. Within the warp, laughter echoed like thunder. Look at them, Sench murmured. They tear themselves apart in the name of light. He spreads disease without touch, chuckled Nurgle. He bleeds love and agony in equal measure, Slaanesh sighed. He stirs war in the name of peace, Khorne growled. He is mine, whether he knows it or not. But among the swirling madness, something else stirred, a presence older, colder, and utterly silent. The warp rippled, bending around an unseen gravity. The gods of chaos hesitated. He watches, whispered Sench. The Father awakens. For on Terra, deep within the Golden Throne, a spark had ignited, faint but real. The Emperor's eyes flickered open for a single, eternal heartbeat. And in that heartbeat, he saw you. The psychic backlash hit you like a storm. You staggered as light pierced your mind, gold and white, infinite and terrible. In that instant, your father's voice filled every neuron, every atom of your being. Enough. The word froze armies mid-battle. Vox systems collapsed. Even the warp screamed and recoiled. Across Terra, millions fell to their knees, some in worship, some in terror. You dropped to the floor, blood seeping from your nose, eyes burning with light. Father, you woke. You have divided my Imperium. I tried to heal it. You have made them worship flesh again. Then let them see the flesh that remembers them. A silence like the end of time filled your skull. You are what I buried within myself, he said. Mercy. Doubt. Humanity. The realization struck like lightning. You were not merely a clone, you were the Emperor's forgotten heart, his compassion severed when he chose to become a god. And now that heart had returned to life, wearing his face. You fell to your knees, trembling. Then what am I supposed to be? Balance, the voice whispered. Or damnation? The psychic link shattered, leaving you gasping amid flickering ruins. Thalius caught you before you fell. What did he say? You looked at the burning skyline, the divided armies, the heavens trembling above. He said he remembers. That night, as the fires dimmed and the last hymns faded into ash, the two sons of the Imperium rose together, one golden, one crimson. Across a galaxy of faith and fear, every mortal soul felt it, the birth of something new. Not God. Not men. But something in between. And in that fragile light, the next war began. The sky above Terra burned with two lights. One gold, pure and endless, the Emperor's. One crimson, alive and human, yours. Every soul across the galaxy felt their pull. Worlds wept. Armies halted mid-battle. Priests tore their scriptures, unable to decide which sun to worship. Even the warp grew still, a trembling hush before a storm not seen since the dawn of mankind. You stood at the foot of the golden throne, the vast cathedral of humanity's devotion echoing with silence. The custodes had fallen back. The inquisitors dared not breathe. Even the air seemed afraid of what was about to happen. The Emperor sat unmoving, his skeletal form radiating impossible light. You approached slowly, each step echoing like the toll of a bell. "You have brought them to the edge," he said at last. His voice shook the marble underfoot. "You have divided the faith I built." "I gave them a choice," you replied. "For 10,000 years, they prayed to a corpse. Now they can pray to a conscience." A conscience. His tone hardened. Or chaos disguised as mercy. You raised your eyes, and for the first time, you didn't bow. "If compassion is chaos, Father, then perhaps humanity was born from it." The light between you flared. Every servo skull in the chamber burst into fire. The air thickened, vibrating with power. Reality cracked like glass. And from those cracks, they came. The chaos gods manifested not in full form, but as reflections in the golden light, vast shadows of madness and desire. They surrounded the throne like vultures around a dying sun. Scent shimmered first, 1,000 eyes blinking in amusement. "The experiment has reached its end, Emperor. You split yourself to become divine, and now you're humanity rebels." How poetic. Korn's roar followed, molten and red. "Fight, gods of men! Let your blood baptize your throne." Nurgle's laughter rolled like thunder, dripping rot across the air. "Even divinity decays. How sweet that your son carries your disease of doubt." And Slaanesh whispered, soft and delighted. "Such beauty in rebellion. Such pleasure in pain." The Emperor rose. The throne itself cracked beneath the motion. Golden fire filled the room, burning the warp forms until they screamed and retreated, yet they lingered, watching. He turned to you, eyes blazing. "You see what you invite with your mercy. The warp feasts on your compassion. You held your ground. Then let it feast on mine, not theirs. If I was born from your humanity, then I carry its weight. I'll bear what you cast away." Silence. The Emperor stared long into your eyes, the same eyes that once reflected his own. Then, slowly, his hand reached forward, resting on your shoulder. The touch was like holding a star, pain and peace bound as one. "You are my greatest sin," he said quietly. "And my last redemption." A shockwave of light tore through the palace, shattering walls, lifting both of you from the ground. Your minds merged, the divine and the human, God and reflection. In that blinding storm of thought, you saw everything: the first gene labs of Terra, the fall of Horus, the billions who died for belief, the silent prayer of a starving child on a forgotten world. You felt everything. When the light faded, two figures stood where one had been. The Emperor, weaker, mortal once more. You, radiant, burning with balanced light and shadow. "You took my divinity," he said, almost smiling. "You gave it to me," you answered. "And I'll give it back to them." He nodded. "Then go, my son. Be what I could not." You turned from the throne as dawn broke over Terra, golden and crimson mixing across the horizon. For the first time in millennia, the Emperor rested, his eyes closing in peace. And humanity saw the rise of something new, not worship, not fear, but understanding. The faith of men had been rewritten. Two lights now burned over the galaxy, neither alone, neither pure, but both eternal. One for the God who built humanity, and one for the men who remembered it. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Astronomicon flickered. Not darkened, not dead, but changed. Its pure golden beam was now mixed with shades of living crimson, pulsating like a beating heart. Every navigator felt it in their veins, a strange warmth replacing the cold command that had guided them for millennia. Across the stars, billions looked to the sky, and saw two suns where there had only ever been one. Some fell to their knees. Others screamed that the end had come. But the wise, the broken, and the forgotten, they simply wept. You stood upon the balcony of the Palace of Light, once the Emperor's prison, now reformed into a living citadel. The air shimmered with psychic residue, and every surface hummed with whispers, echoes of worship and doubt intertwined. Behind you stood what remained of the High Lords of Terra, trembling in their ceremonial armor. They had sworn to serve the Emperor eternal. Now, they faced his reflection. "You can't change the creed," one of them hissed. "Faith must be absolute. Doubt is death." You turned to face them, your eyes radiant with both mortal fatigue and immortal fire. "Faith without doubt is slavery," you said softly. "And death is not the worst thing humanity can endure. Blindness is." They fell silent. None dared to meet your gaze. Your voice carried through the chamber, not through sound, but through thought. Millions across Terra heard you speak within their minds. "I am not your God. I am your mirror." The Emperor's will was never to be worshipped, but to be remembered, through you. A surge of psychic energy rippled across the warp. Planets under the Ecclesiarchy's rule shook as statues of the Emperor cracked and bled golden light. Priests fell into trances, muttering prayers they had never learned. And deep within the Imperium, something shifted. The Chaos Gods screamed. Their domains, once boundless, vibrant oceans of emotion, began to tremble. Where once they fed on hatred, now uncertainty spread like rust. Millions of human souls that once poured into the warp as pure faith and fear were now diffused, not vanished, but balanced. Sench's crystal realms fractured into mirrored shards. Khorne's rivers of blood stilled. Nurgle's gardens withered, their decay starving. Slaanisha's symphony faltered, its perfection ruined by empathy. For the first time since their birth, chaos felt hunger. You walked through the halls of the Golden Throne's ruins, the smell of ozone and blood still heavy in the air. In the heart of it sat the Emperor, still alive, but fading, his light dimming as yours grew brighter. He smiled faintly as you approached. "So, you've begun to heal them." "They're healing themselves," you replied. "I only opened the wound they were afraid to see." The Emperor's breath was shallow. "Perhaps, that was all I ever needed to do." He reached out a trembling hand, resting it against your chest. "But your fire will fade too. Humanity will turn on you as they did on me. They will build temples to your doubt and call it truth." "I know," you whispered. "That's why I won't stay. His gaze sharpened. You mean to leave? You nodded. The warp must learn new balance. I will go where the gods dwell, where souls are born and broken. The galaxy must learn to dream again, without divine chains. A faint chuckle escaped him. Then go, my son. Carry what remains of me. He closed his eyes. A single tear of molten gold slipped down his cheek. When it touched the ground, flowers bloomed, the first natural life seen within the Imperial Palace in 10 millennia. You looked upon him one last time, the father, the tyrant, the savior, all that he was and was not. Then you stepped into the light. The warp opened before you like a living storm. Sench's shadow awaited you first. You think you can teach balance to madness, he hissed. You'll drown in contradiction. You smiled faintly. Maybe. But if contradiction is human, then let humanity drown with me, for once, by choice. With every step, you felt your mortal body burn away, replaced by an essence not divine but complete. You weren't a god of war, nor of faith, nor of ruin. You were remembrance. The warp screamed as you entered. The light of the two suns followed, gold and crimson spiraling through the sea of nightmares. You didn't destroy chaos. You taught it pain. You taught it empathy. And in doing so, you gave the galaxy something it had never truly known, balance without perfection. Far above Terra, in orbit, a lone servitor transmitted your final words across the Imperium. You are not servants of gods. You are survivors of yourselves. The Emperor was not your master, he was your mirror. Now look into it, and see what you've become. That signal would echo for centuries. Some would call it heresy. Others, prophecy. But most would simply call it hope. 1,000 years passed. And yet, to the warp, time was nothing more than a breath held too long. The galaxy healed, though unevenly, scar tissue over a wound that would never truly close. The Imperium no longer spoke your name in sermons or songs. They whispered it instead, in secret gatherings, in the dim corners of shrine worlds, in the flicker of candlelight that refused to die. They called you the Echo. The Emperor's reflection. The light that questioned. No statues were raised in your image, by your own decree. Instead, there were windows, crystal lenses etched with shifting light, capturing both the golden glow of faith and the red warmth of blood. In those colors, mortals saw the reminder that salvation and destruction were often born from the same fire. Terra became both paradise and prison, not of metal, but of memory. The Astronomicon no longer burned with oppressive brilliance, it pulsed softly, steady as a heartbeat. Navigators described it not as a beacon, but as a song, a melody of both hope and sorrow. Ships still crossed the void, but fewer were lost. The warp storms began to thin, their chaotic tempests replaced by trembling silence. And in that silence, something new began to dream. Far from Terra, on a nameless planet bathed in twilight, a child sat alone beneath a crimson sky. He was thin, his clothes in rags, his hands stained with oil from the wreckage of an ancient servitor. Yet his eyes shimmered faintly, not gold, not red, but both. He looked upward, watching the twin suns bleed their colors into the clouds. His mother's voice called him inside, but he did not move. He felt something stir inside his chest, a warmth that was not his own. "I know you," a whisper said. "I was you." He didn't understand the words. But he smiled anyway, as if he did. Within the Imperium, where gods were once kings and kings were once dreams, the warp had grown quiet. Sencha's laughter had turned to contemplation. Korn's roars faded to the sound of beating drums, rhythm instead of rage. Nurgle's garden sprouted new growth, no longer rot but rebirth. Even Slaanesh, eternal seeker of perfection, sat in still reflection, tracing ripples across a pool of starlight that mirrored mortal faces smiling through tears. And in the center of that infinite calm, you stood. Not in armor. Not in light. Just you. No longer human, yet not divine. A whisper, a presence. A story retold endlessly, reshaped each time by those who still dared to dream. The Emperor's throne on Terra remained empty. But in the warp, the echo of his final breath lingered. And through it, his sons, his failures, his victories, had found peace. You looked down upon the galaxy and saw it for what it truly was. A contradiction that refused to die. You feared gods, you whispered. And in doing so, you became them. You feared doubt, and so you built faith in cages. But even cages rust, when light seeps in. The warp rippled softly. A billion souls dreamed of you that night, not in worship, but in wonder. And for the first time since the dawn of mankind, the dream did not twist into nightmare. On Terra, a scribe of the reformed Astra Ecclesia, the Church of Light and Shadow, finished transcribing the last line of a forbidden chronicle. He paused, his candle flickering as a soft breeze passed through the grand cathedral. When he looked down, the ink on the parchment shimmered faintly, as if alive. The final line read, "The Emperor was the flame. The echo was the breath. And humanity, the spark that endures between them." The scribe smiled, set down his quill, and blew out the candle. Darkness filled the hall, warm, quiet, infinite. Above him, through the cathedral's fractured glass ceiling, the twin suns of Terra shone once more, red and gold intertwining like a heartbeat across the heavens. Somewhere in the warp, your laughter echoed, soft, human, eternal. And the galaxy moved on.